Gentleman kneels back. Representative Pappas. Ms. Brownley is recognized. Ms. Brownley, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here. And I'm going to start out with a question, and I don't want you to think I'm being combatant here. I'm not. I just want to understand what's going on. And it's a question around non-disclosure agreements that I'm hearing. I have a copy of a non-disclosure agreement here that it appears is...
Hey everyone, welcome back to True Voice. I'm Andrew, and if you care about truth, justice, and taking care of our veterans the way they deserve to be, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. Today, we're diving into a really important moment from a congressional hearing. Representative Julia Brownley confronted VA Secretary Doug Collins about non-disclosure agreements and spyware allegedly being installed on staff computers at the Department of Veterans Affairs. Let's watch.
As though you're requiring supervisors at VA to sign these non-disclosure statements as you go through this reduction in force plan. So I think one of the things in this non-disclosure that seems to be not in it is protection for whistleblowers. I think Title V requires that there needs to be protection for whistleblowers. So that seems to be lacking in this non-disclosure agreement. But I'm also hearing from employees that they're saying that spyware is being installed in their computers to monitor their emails and Teams messaging, et cetera. So, you know, generally my question is, this kind of feels as though you're not creating an environment that is where people are motivated to work as hard as they can for our veterans. So, you know, I was elected at the same time you were, and, you know, certainly I would think as a former member, as you are, you would be asking similar questions, I think. And so I'm just asking, why are you doing this?
Thank you, Congresswoman. It is good to see you again. We did come in together. Look, the NDA simply restates, you know, Title 18 U.S.C. 1905, in which the employees and others are not to discuss, is to keep sensitive information in any department internal. And we're dealing with a issue right now that is a dramatic change for the VA, and we're looking at workforce. And one of the issues that we're having to deal with workforce is one of the things, and I'll be very upfront with all of you here today before we even go down some of the line of questioning. There is not a time that I'm going to, in a public setting, go into details as far as this group of people being looked at, that group of people being looked at, not in a setting like this. That's not fair to them, and it's not fair to this committee. So this is simply a restatement, but all of the protections that are afforded a whistleblower or work with communication with Congress, classified information, any reporting to Inspector General, mismanagement, anything else are all protected in that NDA. It does not curtail them. This is simply an opportunity for us to have open and honest dialogue about where our workforce should be shaped.
So where does a whistleblower go if they feel the need that...
Officer of Whistleblower Protection. We have it inside our own agency. That's where they go.
It's still there?
Yes.
It's still operational?
It's never went anywhere. Ted is still there.
What? They've signed the non-disclosure agreement? I'm not sure what you're saying, but anyway. Okay. So let me move on.
Okay.
The Elizabeth Dole bill, I was very involved with the Elizabeth Dole bill and was wanting to hear from you about when you think it will be implemented. It was passed about, I think, 6 months or so ago. It's certainly something that our veterans and certainly the Elizabeth Dole Foundation is very anxious to see implemented and get started. So could you speak to when the implementation is going to take place?
We have already started the meetings and internal operations on the Dole Act on how we're going to be doing that, but we're not rushing through it. One of the things I think that we did learn from the PACT Act was that even a good idea such as the PACT Act, if implemented quickly, could lead to issues of budgets, issues of staffing, and how it's actually rolled out. So probably over the next couple of months, we're going to see. We've already been meeting, and I think there's actually been some conversations with the Hill and staff, and we can be happy to get you more on where we're exactly at right now. But we're looking to do that and get it on time with the requirements of the Dole Act.
When our staff was being briefed, they were told that Section 120, which is an important section because this is where the the 65% cap on expenditures for non-institutionalized care is lifted. And we were told that the VA isn't planning on implementing that until January of next year. And I bring this up because we have veterans, ALS veterans, veterans with spinal cord injuries that need and want their care at home for a quality of life I think that they deserve. And they can't, they're out there and they can't have it because this cap is on there and there's not enough resources to have them stay at home with dignity. And so they're out there waiting. We've actually heard that some veterans who have been on ventilators have lifted the ventilator because they don't want to go into institutionalized care and really have just taken their own life. So they're out there, just hoping, praying that this will be implemented so that they can be taken care of with the dignity, as I said, that they deserve.
Yeah, thank you, Congressman. I agree completely. We're going to move as fast as we can and make sure that it's actually done properly to get it to everybody so that when it's implemented, it'll be done. I'll check into the year there and go back and get you more information on Section 20. What we're finding is as we get into it, there may be times that we can actually implement things quicker. I think they want to give a time frame that may be workable but could be done quicker. So we'll actually look into that.
Well, and I will say to you that the implementation of the Elizabeth Dole, you will save money because getting the care at home is less expensive than it is in institutionalized care. And it's a win-win because that's where veterans want to be cared for, is in their homes, particularly aging veterans, disabled veterans, and that's what the Elizabeth Dole bill was really all about. So it's a win-win all the way around, and I know you're trying to use resources as effectively as possible. Well, implementation of this bill is a road to go down quickly where you can save money and invest in other areas.
I agree, and that's also one of the issues that we're making sure that we do have the investment of money that was come, because some of the bills is still, we're still determining what the funding mechanisms were because they were not funded in the act as we go through. So those will be issues that we're going to work toward. Let me just say on a personal note, I understand that completely. Having a daughter who has spina bifida and in a wheelchair, the needs at home sometimes can be, it is something that you have to prepare for. We've had to do things in our own house over the last 30 years that I would have never thought I'd have to.
Very good. Well, my time is running out, but I wanted to ask you, I know you've talked about world-class health care for our veterans. Just hoping that you will uphold the world-class standard of the team-based model of anesthesia within our hospitals. I think it's really important. And with that, I yield back.
Let's talk about what went down and what it means for workers, veterans, and democracy itself. Right out the gate, Representative Brownley isn't playing around. She raises a valid concern about NDAs being used during a reduction in force. That's government speak for layoffs. But here's the problem. These NDAs apparently lack whistleblower protections. That's not just a red flag. That's a blaring siren. We're talking about people working at the VA, public servants, who are being asked to keep quiet while potentially being surveilled. That doesn't sound like oversight. That sounds like corporate-style intimidation tactics inside a government agency. Employees are saying there's spyware on their computers, monitoring their emails, their team's messages. That's not how you build a motivated, transparent workforce. That's how you erode trust and scare people into silence. If you're a left-wing patriot like me, you know we believe in government, but only when it's transparent, accountable, and working for the people. What we don't believe in is secrecy and surveillance of frontline staff who are trying to care for our veterans. Doug Collins trying to claim that the NDAs are just a restatement of federal law. Okay, even if that's true, why are employees saying they feel intimidated? Why aren't the whistleblower protections clearly written into these agreements? Intent matters, but so does perception. If your employees feel like they're being silenced or watched, you've already lost their trust. This part broke my heart. Veterans, some with ALS or spinal cord injuries, are being forced into institutions instead of getting home-based care because the VA hasn't lifted a spending cap yet. And some are so hopeless, they're taking their own lives rather than face institutionalization. Let me say this clearly. That is a national disgrace. Home-based care is not just more humane, it's more cost-effective. Brownley nailed it. This is a win-win for everyone. The fact that it's taking this long to implement a law like the Elizabeth Dole Act, which was passed months ago, shows how broken the priorities are at the top. This hearing shows exactly why we need progressive leadership in government. Leaders who fight for transparency, who speak truth to power, and who refuse to let bureaucracy get in the way of basic human dignity. Julia, Brownley showed real courage in this hearing. And Secretary Collins? He gave us a lot of spin, but not nearly enough action or accountability. If you believe our veterans and public servants deserve better, subscribe to True Voice, hit that like button, and let me know in the comments what you think about this situation. Are we doing enough for our vets? Are NDAs and spyware ever justified in public service? I'll be reading all of your comments. Until next time, stay loud, stay proud, and speak your true voice.